The Britlewort garden. We arrived to the town of Sisawo, in the West Pomeranian province of Poland, 100 million years after the extinction of mankind, where houses and churches once stood. Now we only find water, the sea extends as far as we can see, and beneath the waves the forests composed by tall pines and giant oaks, have been replaced by an equally impressive range of aquatic vegetation. Since the Earth started to get hot again, at the end of the post-Anthropocene Ice Age, most species of kelp started to struggle. Once the current thermal maximum started, their biodiversity got hit extremely hard, to the point where all the northern hemisphere species went quickly extinct, with the last remaining representatives of the lineage surviving around the southern coasts of western Antarctica and New Zealand. What replaced them in the north are descendants of brittleworts. These were mostly freshwater dwellers in the Anthropocene, with some species tolerating brackish environments. Now there are more than 100 species that feel comfortable in marine environments, extending throughout all of the coasts of Eurasia and North America. We jump from the boat and submerge into this hidden world under the waves. It takes us no time to find our first peculiar creature. This is a small invertebrate. This is the gardener octopus. Gardener octopuses are around the size of a tennis ball, and are almost ubiquitous across all the neritic environments of Europe. They live among the aquatic vegetation, hiding in between the leaves and fronds, taking advantage of their green coloration to camouflage and avoid larger predators. There are many animals that would see them as potential prey. After all, these octopus are, unlike most modern species, not venomous or toxic, so they depend completely on stealth for survival. If a predator were to actually notice them, and they realize it, they do still have one last trick under their mantle. The same ink sacs all octopus and squid species had are modified, and instead secrete a thick mucus with a nauseous smell and taste, meant to confuse predators or keep them busy swallowing it while they make a quick escape. Some individuals will also have bacteria living in their mucus that aid into making the substance even more distasteful for their attackers, and makes it less likely for them to want to approach the mollusk again. A notorious anatomical feature that distinguishes this animal from any other related individual are the phagochoros. These are 4 modified tentacles on the front of the animal's face. These appendages are wide and the underside is covered not in suction cups but hundreds of small mobile structures known as dendropodia that serve the sole function of gathering plankton and floating organic matter and direct it to the animal's mouth. The mouth has an atrophied beak, weak and dented. It is no longer able to crack open anything, but present in order to help keep the food inside. This species, just like most other octopuses, is simiparous, meaning they only reproduce once. They reach sexual maturity at around the year of age, and the males will then start the search for a mate. It is very hard to find one, so as soon as they manage to spot a female, they will perch in close proximity and start their approach, slowly and gently reaching her with his hectocotylus, the tentacle that contains his penis. In most cases she will reject this approach the first few times, but as long as the male keeps trying, she will eventually give in and they will successfully mate. After mating, the female will lay between 100 and 300 eggs and hold on to them, protecting them with her phagoceros until they fully develop and hatch. This takes 3 months, and is so draining for that female's body, that she passes away afterwards. Males generally reach the 3 years of life, and females that for some reason are unable to reproduce have a similar lifespan. We continue exploring the Britlewort garden until we finally spot another creature. This is also an invertebrate. The Morgi beetle is a marine insect, one of very few lineages that have evolved throughout the history of life on our planet. They can grow up to 2 inches in length without counting the legs, with females being a bit larger than males on average, probably to ensure their bodies can produce large quantities of eggs without using up all their own nutrient reserves. They swim mainly with their hind legs, that are adapted as flippers or oars, and can reach very high speeds in short bursts. They use this speed to catch small fish, fry free swimming crustaceans and even small squids. the ones they hold onto with their front legs, adapted as grappling appendages and kill with their enlarged mandibles. They can be found throughout most of Eurasia. Not only the coasts, but also in brackish water estuaries, and even freshwater rivers, not only the sections that are just about to reach the ocean, but all the way up the Mediterranean and Bering Mountains and as far south in Central Asia and southern Mongolia and northern China. This can sound weird for a marine species, but taking a look to its close relatives, that are all exclusively freshwater-dwelling species, it becomes clear that the marine populations are the strange ones. Being able to tolerate the salinity is a very peculiar skill among insects, and it's believed that generally speaking, competition with their crustacean cousins keeps them away from even trying to populate Earth's oceans. The reason these animals ended up taking on the challenge of marine life might have to do with both their ontogeny and ecological relationships with fishes. This animal is a parasitoid. In a similar way to some species of wasps, they will start their lives inside another animal. The mother swims towards a large fish or some aquatic tetrapod and uses its sharp and strong mandibles to open a small hole, preferably without the larger animal noticing. After that she deposits the eggs in the wound, and upon hatching the larvae will start eating this other animal from the insides out, eventually killing them and emerging from the carcass as adults. In a few situations when the fish is very large compared to the beetles, they can fulfill this part of their life cycle without necessarily killing them, but will still eat a big portion of the host's tissues, likely leaving them with very reduced chances of long-term survival. After emerging, the animal lives the rest of its life as free-swimming predator. Now, this behavior is shared with the rest of its freshwater relatives, which means that likely a few million years ago the first members of this lineage started to adventure into the sea by attacking and parasitizing diadromous fish species. This means fish that, like salmon, spend part of their lives living in rivers and part living in the open ocean, creating therefore an evolutive pressure for the beetles to adapt towards enduring the salinity of the environment, at first just enough to slowly swim back to the river where their parents lived, but eventually well enough to become successful marine predators. Oddly enough, after just a few seconds we sight yet another marine insect among the vegetation. This is the northern needle scorpion, not really a recent lineage. Back in the Anthropocene, more than 100 different species of water scorpions thrived in most of the world freshwater environments from Asia all the way to South America, and while they never adventured into the ocean's purse, many were already salt tolerant, some even surviving in hypersaline environments. The only thing stopping them from colonizing Poseidon's realm was competition. But since the mass extinction that ended humanity wiped the slate clean, a few species managed to quickly adapt, and for over 95 million years these animals have been thriving in all the coasts of the planet. The northern needle scorpion is one of the most common and widespread of them all, being found not only in northern Europe but practically throughout all the Arctic Circle and all the way down to northern Spain. While their general anatomy and lifestyle is fairly similar to the one of their ancestors, they do have a few key differences. First of all, their exoskeleton is heavily reinforced. An internal layer mixes calcium carbonate with the usual chitin, and it's in turn covered by a thick cuticle. In this species it can be a whole millimeter thick. The tips of the animal's mouth parts and front appendages also contain minimal amounts of biological iron. Similar to the teeth of some vertebrates, their breathing apparatus is neotenic in nature, with the abdominal spiracles taking a more important role than the siphon. This is barely functional and rarely ever used. The wings are vestigial and adults are unable to perform powered flight, and the animal's eyes are much more effective and developed than the ones of their ancient relatives. They mate at the beginning of autumn, between late September to early October. Males and females gather near the surface of the water where the eggs are laid in between the vegetation. Here the water contains more oxygen, and that helps the development of the embryos. Choosing this particular time has a purpose, as it coincides with the breeding season of a species of fish, and the presence of said species deters smaller species from approaching the insects' nests, improving their survival rates. The eggs develop fast, hatching with 10 days of being laid. The hatchlings are planktonic and feed mostly of copepods. Speaking of the devil, we see in the distance a large fish swimming. This is an adult female belonging to the species known as greater lawerdant. This predatory fish can reach up to 6 feet in length and are known to be very vicious predators of open seas, feeding on a diverse array of prey including not only several species of smaller bony fish, but also small sharks, several types of seabirds and of course, their favorite prey, squids. They can be found all across the Atlantic and Arctic oceans, with a few populations surviving in the equatorial waters around South and Central America. The animals have also been reported swimming at depths as contrasting as 5,000 meters under the waves and surface level. What's even more impressive is that the animals transition from one hunting zone to another in mere minutes without presenting damage or health issues associated with the change in pressure surrounding the animal's body. During these expeditions to the dark depths they hunt a wide arrangement of abyssal organisms, including demon squids, a species of cephalopod that can reach the 5 meters in length. Now the reason these animals are in this place right now is because of reproduction. Every year the adult members of the species will gather around the northern coasts of Eurasia and start searching for a place where to lay their eggs. The first ones to arrive will lay their eggs in between 5 and 10 meters deep, in between the foliage. The rest will be forced to lay theirs either near the seafloor where it is more likely for crab and other benthic organisms to reach them, or near the surface where seabirds can see them and are also vulnerable to changes in the tides or storms. Once the females have laid their eggs in a place they feel satisfied with, the males will compete to fertilize them, pushing and thrashing each other around. After the males have fully emptied their gonads they leave right away. The females on the other hand start one of the most challenging part of their lives. They will not leave their position for the next 3 months, starving themselves for the sake of keeping danger away from their developing eggs. The stress and hunger causes them to become extremely aggressive. Sometimes it reaches the point where their neighbors start looking like food, and the smaller and weaker females will often end up as nutrition for the larger ones. The needle scorpions reproduce at the same time. This way they are commensalistic to the lawerdants, taking advantage of their presence without providing anything in return, but not harming them either. They can approach with confidence since not only their camouflage help them pass by unadvertised, their small size makes them nutritionally meaningless for the fish, so even if they are spotted they might as well be ignored. Close by we spot another fish hiding among the Britlewort, staying still in order not to get the lawerdant to detect it. This is a dosag fish, a relatively easy prey item for animals the size of the lawerdant. The spotted dosag fish is a marine descendant of freshwater-dwelling Anthropocene loaches. They can be found all around northern Eurasia, in densely vegetated areas. They are around the size of a large orange and spend most of the day hiding among the stems of the Britlewort. Thanks to their short tails and rotund bodies they are terrible swimmers, and can't really escape from large and fast predators, so they rely on stealth for survival. They will however become more active during the night, due to the sheer density of the Britlewort leaves. Little to no moonlight manages to shine through, so even at shallow depths the surrounding water looks pitch black, is almost as dark as the start of the abyssal zones in open marine environments. And that's exactly the amount of light the dosag fish needs to employ its favorite hunting method. In a similar way to many deep-sea fish they have symbiotic bioluminescent bacteria living under the first layer of their skin. In the dark of the night these start to shine brightly, the small bacteria producing enough light as to make the rostrum of the animal look like the starry night sky. From now on it's a matter of minutes before the light attracts several species of phytoplankton, mostly dinoflagellates but also a few mobile diatoms. These in turn attract zooplankton, ranging from small copepods to shrimp or cephalopod larvae and krill. All of these are what the fish was aiming for. Once they are close enough, the animal will deploy a unique adaptation. The ungulo-articular and dentary bones of the lower jaw, and the premaxillary of the upper jaw are detached from the rest of the skull, connected to an extension of the maxillary that allows for a rapid extension and contraction of the mouth. This lets them catch prey with surprising speed and efficiency. After filling its belly, the animal calls of the lights, sending chemical signals through its skin to the bacteria living in it to make them less active. This way the animal can rest at night without fearing a larger nocturnal predator spots it. We start to adventure further away from the coasts. Here the vegetation becomes less dense, giving way to a slightly more open environment. Larger fauna can traverse these waters. After a few minutes we are actually approached by a large animal that seems to be curious about our presence. This is a Dobar hearth, smart yet dangerous marine predators. The Dobar hearth is a large species of mustelid, member of a lineage of aquatic predators that recently took on niches on marine environments. There are 3 closely related species of this lineage currently alive, 2 of them distributed across the northern hemisphere, and 1 around the equatorial waters off the coasts of Western Africa. All the species look very similar, with the only noticeable differences being the size and minor variations in diet. The Dobar hearth is a generalist. They feed on anything ranging from small fish and squids, to other marine tetrapods like marine turtles and crocodiles, cooperating in packs to bring down prey much larger than themselves. When hunting large prey they will approach in groups of from behind and repeatedly bite the fins, and in the case of sharks also the gills. Part of their group will go up to the surface to breathe, with the rest continue relentlessly harassing the prey. Then the ones that just refilled their lungs take over to let their pack mates go to the surface. They repeat this pattern until they manage to drown or tear apart their victim. After the hunting is done they share the spoils right away, eating fast before other rival groups or large sharks notice and try to steal their food. They quickly consume the subcutaneous fat, livers and the meat around the belly and neck. The rest of the carcass falls to the seabed to become a feast for crabs and other small scavengers. The social structure of the groups is very loose. There are no obvious hierarchies or frequent displays of dominance or aggression. The pack size can vary quite a lot, with small groups being composed of as little as 4 individuals and the largest ones congregating up to 30. The size of the group depends on prey availability and the local ecology, with larger groups forming around the migratory routes of marine crocodiles and smaller ones living in areas like the Britlewort forests where small fishes are abundant. Limited tool use has also been observed in these animals, using pieces of driftwood, cylindrical sponges or corals to scrape parasites out of their skin, or proven between small rock crevices in order to make small fish or octopus come out of them. There are also a few instances in which juveniles and cubs have been observing using dead fishes or pieces of vegetation to play, chasing each other to steal the item from their mouths, just to leave the items behind once they get bored. We see the mammals swim away after getting bored of staring at us and continue exploring. As we start to approach a small island the vegetation becomes dense again. This time, instead of the large tree-like plants we saw before, another species of Britlewort grows here, small and grass-like, and feeding on it we spot a reptile. The Muckle turtle, or northern black turtle, is the largest marine turtle currently alive, and with a weight of up to 2 tons they are comparable with long ago extinct Armageddon genus turtles of the Cretaceous. Unlike them however, these are strict herbivores, feeding mostly on seagrass and brittlewurths, although they might occasionally end up swallowing a small shrimp or fish that was hiding among the vegetation. On the other hand, they have several predators of their own. While almost no animal is able to take down an adult on their own, large groups of Dobar hearts do sometimes take on the challenge, and newborns or juveniles have a lot of threats they need to keep an eye on for, including large fishes, sharks and several species of marine crocodiles. Note here we call the youngest members of this species newborns instead of hatchlings. This is because the lineage of turtles the Muckle turtle belongs to, is actually capable of giving live birth, just like many other groups of marine reptiles did before these creatures managed to adapt the reproductive system to retain the eggs throughout all their development. The babies emerge from the mother's body fully formed and independent, capable of swimming and foraging on their own with mere seconds of age. This frees the mother from the necessity of returning to land every year, and the newborns from the ordeal of traversing the distance between the nest and the waves under the constant attack of seabirds and crabs, like it happened with the marine turtles of the age of man. We see the turtle swim away slowly, and after waiting for around an hour, we finally see in the distance, the slumbering presence of the largest fish around. This is the Leviathan shark, the largest living animal of the planet. These peaceful giants swim across all the oceans of the planet. There are 2 recognized subspecies, one living near the Arctic, in the waters that surround the North America, Europe and East Asia, and the southern one, inhabiting the oceans around the coasts of Oceania, South America, Southern Africa and both Antarctic continental masses. There is little to none physical differences in between both populations, but they have been genetically isolated for around 50,000 years. The females are slightly smaller than males, averaging 45 tons, and 15 to 17 meters in total length. Males tip the scale to 50 tons in average, with a maximum ever recorded of 62 tons, and the average length varies between 16 and 19 meters, with 21 meters for the record-breaking, extremely elderly males. On the other hand, they weigh less than 4 kilograms and measure only about a meter at birth. The vulnerable pups, of which up to 30 can be born at a time, will swim behind their mother's tail for the first 2 years of their lives, hoping her sheer size is intimidating enough to keep most predators at bay. During this time they will grow at an extremely accelerated rhythm, duplicating their size in their first 3 months of life and reaching the 4 meters before their 6th birthday. We swim around the enormous animal. While the size is intimidating, the animal has not much physical capacity for causing us harm. Not only it is very slow and relatively rigid in its movement, it also lacks any tooth on its jaws, and is practically unable to actually bite, as the muscles that allow for the mouth to close itself are greatly atrophied. There are however hundreds of small needle-like teeth inside the animal's throat. This help it conduct any small fish, crustaceans and all sorts of planktonic organisms towards its digestive system. The cross-section of the throat itself is star-shaped, what help it swallow large quantities of plankton more efficiently. While it is impossible for the animal to swallow something the size of a human, it can hold up to 6 tons of food inside its huge stomach and enlarged intestines. Most Leviathan sharks that survive into adulthood live extremely long lives. An average lifespan of 70 years put them on par with humans or elephants, and in some rare cases the animals can exceed the century. Once they die, their carcasses will cause a phenomenon known as wellfall, in which the sheer amount of nutrients that falls to the normally barren abyssal ecosystem, causes the population of all the creatures living there to explode. On the other hand, deaths that take place near the coast will gather megafaunal predators and flying scavengers for miles around, to fight over the spoils, as well as causing a minor increase in the local population of beach crabs. We finally get back to the boat and set sail back to the coast. Our expedition here has finished, with this last glimpse into what has been of life on Earth 100 million years after the Armageddon. Thanks for participating in this journey.